I'm Roniel.
I'm DaRon. Let me actually tell you, because you might find this interesting. You know why I don't like flying? You know why I don't
Why?
like Alabama at all, but that's a different matter. But why I don't like flying?
Why?
So we went to my son's orientation. They required us to go to orientation. And the flight there was relatively uneventful. When I went through TSA, I to get there, I opted out because I always opt out. And I opt out because they're going to pat me down anyway. They're going to use the metal detector anyway, and they're going to check for, any bomb residue, anything like that on me anyway. So I always opt out. And I go, and I told my son to opt out too, and so we both go, we get up to the security check-in, and I say, hey, I want to opt out, and there's a lot of cheering and clapping in the line behind me when we said that. A lot of people don't like it, but most people, they'll just go right through the body scanner, and I refuse for a variety of reasons. I worked on testing the security of some of those and things of that nature, and I will never walk through those. Well, and then on top of that, like I said, I mean, they're going to search me anyway. So we get down to Alabama, and it's late at night. We're in Birmingham because it's the only place that you can fly into. He's over in Tuscaloosa. So we land in Birmingham. Uber has nothing to go from. There was nothing to go from the airport all the way down to the university in Tuscaloosa. It's about an hour away. Except we could take the Greyhound bus. So what I wound up doing was Uber wouldn't take me to the Greyhound bus station from the airport. So I used Lyft. We get to the bus station. It's 21:30. So you're talking 9:30 p.m., right? And there are a whole bunch of people as
Yeah.
we're driving in this Lyft down the road. There's this guy kicking a trash can without a shirt on, without shoes on, just kicking a trash can down the middle of the road. I kid you not, the middle of the road, the whole way down, and the Lyft had to go around him. I, just It was the weirdest thing I've actually ever seen, and I was in New Orleans shortly after Katrina, and it was better than what I was seeing when I was in Birmingham. Well, when we arrived at the bus station, right across the street from the bus station are a whole bunch of what are very clearly, shall we say, women of the night. Very, very clearly, just a whole bunch of them right across from the RTA terminal. And then up against the building, there are a whole bunch of people strung out on drugs, all of this other stuff. I mean, just strung out on drugs. So my son and I are, we're cautiously walking into this RTA station. We have about an hour we have to blow. There are a lot of people there. They're acting kind of crazy. It turns out that a bus driver didn't show up for one of the buses at all. So they had a whole bunch of people just waiting there, and they were very unhappy.
Did the freaks or woman at nights come and try to save you?
No, no. See, I stayed far away from. See, that was the other thing is, so my son and I, we go into like this little area all by ourselves, because I mean there were a lot of. Look, I'm not stereotyping, but there were a lot of shifty looking people. Shifty behaving people is how I should. And I'm sure a lot of it was just because they'd been there for a long time and they weren't happy. But like I said, you had the people strung out on drugs, you had the prostitutes. I mean, it was not the right time to be at that bus station, apparently. 10:30 rolls around, our bus pulls in, we get on our bus, and it wasn't great, and it didn't smell very good, but that's a whole nother matter. The bus then, I didn't know this, the bus station in Tuscaloosa is a gas station. In fact, it's a gas station on the outskirts of town, and there's nothing there. It doesn't even stop at the gas station. It stops in like the parking lot in a far corner, far away. And at this
What?
point, yes, right. At this point, it's past midnight. There were no lifts running, no Ubers, nothing. There were no taxis anywhere. Yes,
Huh?
nothing. Nothing. So my son and I had to walk from the outskirts of town carrying our luggage all the way to our hotel. And it was, I think, 3.5 miles or something. So,
Oh, that was a hike, huh?
yes.
Son and dad camping.
Yeah. Father son time.
Father and son camp. Yeah. Like to me, it reminds me of camping or hiking or something. Even though you're not really camping, but to be all the way out there and have to go all the way back, you
Yes.
know.
Yes. See, and that was the thing was so the actual orientation was uneventful. It was pretty nice. It was a little I don't know how to phrase this. I guess I'll just come out and say it. It was a little woke for me. I heard a lot of mixed messages. I sent you some of what they were saying, and it was
Yeah.
the weirdest stuff. They did a lot of pretending like slavery didn't exist kind of stuff, which I didn't like, and I especially didn't like that it was a black woman who was pretending like slavery didn't exist. I'm sitting there,
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, if this were some good old boy, as they call them, from the South, I'd be going, okay, this makes sense from you. I'm not happy about it. I don't like it, but this makes sense. But anyway, so they said some shifty stuff in general, and there was best part. So every day we'd walk from our hotel over to the campus and then back, and I think it was 1.5 miles or so each way. And so we would pass by two signs, and one time we're sitting there, we're passing by this big placard, and I think I sent it to you, and it's talking about how the this Northern Cavalry regiment had come into the area, and they had sent veteran cavalry to go scout out the town, scout out Tuscaloosa. Now, this isn't quite how they phrased it. So these veteran scout cavalrymen they scout out Tuscaloosa, and Tuscaloosa's cadet academy then rounds up 300 cadets and defends against these cavalry. Now, this placard is memorializing the fact that these cadets successfully fought off these cavalrymen. A couple of real quick things. The cavalry were, again, that group. They were scouts, and you know what scouts do, right? They don't
Yeah.
engage.
Right.
And when engaged, they disengage and then go back, because their whole point and purpose is to figure out how many, the troop composition, positions, all that good stuff. But this placard acts like they won some great victory. However, these cadets suffered actual casualties. The Union didn't suffer any casualties. I'm reading this placard and I'm going, okay, yeah, I see why you emphasize the word veteran. You emphasize the word veteran to make it seem like you fought some really battle-hardened crack troops, and yeah, you took casualties, but these were the best of the North. And cavalry were good, but they were scouts. You lost to scouts. You didn't win. Scouts did what scouts do. And you lost because you took casualties to scouts. Okay, so I thought that was weird. I took a picture. We then are touring the campus, and we come to the mansion for the president of the university. And Tuscaloosa used to be the capital of Alabama, by the way, a long
Ah,
time
okay.
ago.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we go to this mansion, and there's a placard, and I'm reading this placard the Union Army decided to show up because the scouts did what scouts do. They reported back. They said, hey, this is troop composition. This is where they are. The Union Army came the next day and burned down the campus. Well, so I put two and two together and I said, wait a minute. So the scouts did their thing the day prior, and that placard is commemorating a victory against scouts that didn't happen because the scouts weren't harmed in any way and they did what they were supposed to do. And then the second placard is commemorating when the Union Army decided to come rain unholy hell and burn down the place, which is what they did. How could you have a placard about victory when they did what they were supposed to do, and then the next day the army came in and did what they were supposed to do? Made no sense to me. The mental gymnastics you have to do, I think at least, you have to pull off in order to do this kind of thing is mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Yeah. So they were basically saying they were victory, like basically happy about a victory they never had.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
They're delusional.
Okay, they are. Now, my son took another picture of another placard that we saw also on campus, and this placard is commemorating the you maybe remember, but the University of Alabama and Alabama as a whole refused the president JFK's orders to desegregate the schools.
Yeah.
And Alabama pitched a fit, which is why he then federalized the Alabama National Guard, which pissed off the Alabama governor. Just made him livid. But they have a placard commemorating it is not commemorating the successful desegregation and integration of the university. It's actually commemorating the governor of Alabama standing in the doorway preventing the first two black students from entering the university. It's commemorating, I think it's Standing Hall or something like that is what they call it. But it's commemorating not the National Guard successfully forcing this governor to step aside and let these two students register for classes. It's commemorating the governor preventing them from going in. And the worst part is these placards are all fairly new. The two commemorating the Southern losses were from 2003.
So basically, what you're telling me, the moral of this story, that these guys are still racist and they're commemorating, delusional about things that happen, and what they should be doing is basically commemorating the fact that their segregation was gone, but they're not really happy with that, and they want to bring back delusional memories about things they thought were successful to them.
Yes, and that is why every time I have been in the South, I have always had real problems. I mean, real problems. I have literally had people tell my boss that if they want to do any work, if our organization wants to do any work in that area, they have to not bring me along and only bring the white people along. I've literally actually had them send text messages to bosses of mine. Yes.
Oh my.
Yes.
That is.
And that was Huntsville, and that was for the Army. That was us trying to win Army contracts. This was not Aries. This was a different company. I swear, what the hell?
So then basically they definitely wouldn't want me in there. They'd have told me, get him out of here. No, I'm cool. And it's crazy that you say that because my grandfather was born in Alabama, from Alabama. Most majority of my family is from Alabama. And he was giving us a story about when he was a slave in Alabama. And I was like, thought they had kind of stopped all of this stuff. I mean, maybe he was younger at that time still, but he was stating it as he was also older at the time as well and picking cotton and stuff. And I was just like, wait, they still doing that? And around that time, I thought that stuff was done. So it's crazy.
See, that's the thing that boggles my mind the most about all of this is Alabama and Mississippi are both really racist states, and they're actually both mostly black. And I say black as compared to African American because they aren't all African. And if you call someone from the Caribbean African American, they
Oh
tend
yeah,
to
they
get
get.
very.
You know, I mean, yeah, I don't see this funny thing. And before you continue, the funny thing is, remember we having this conversation about African Americans, and I know that that we technically would have came from Africa, but we're not Africans.
Right,
And I don't think people understand that. And I don't have any problem because I know where I come from.
right.
But again, I wasn't born in Africa. So it would be crazy to call me an African American, even though I'm on in American soil. But people, just because you're black, don't mean you're an African American. And
Yeah,
depending on where you at. So I don't
yeah.
think people understand that either. Just like you don't call a Puerto Rican a Mexican,
Right. Right.
you know.
Right. The culture is very different, incredibly different. There is no semblance of the language, and I understand that was not obviously by choice. Trust me, I understand. Happened to my ancestors too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so the university itself is also largely black. There is, I believe, that university has a higher percentage of minorities than most universities in the United States, which makes all of this so strange to me.
I couldn't go there. I would
No.
have to. I would have left. Like I don't know how they go in there and you see some shit like that. That's ridiculous.
Well, and that's why I told my son, I sat there and I said, he's lucky because of my children, he's one of the lighter ones. And I sat there and I told him, well, first and foremost, most people will mistake you as Middle Eastern, so you're okay. Secondly, if you shave that beard, they won't think you're Middle Eastern. You keep clean shaven and they'll think you're just a funny looking white guy, sort of, who's not quite white. They spend a lot of time not being able to put their finger on what's wrong.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
something not right about this guy, but I can't figure out what it is.
So basically, Alabama don't like minorities at all.
No,
So it doesn't matter.
no,
Ah,
no. Okay, so let me tell you what happened on the way back. We go to get back, we had to take RTA again. So we took a lift to that gas station. This time because it was the middle of the day. So we took a lift to that gas station, stood out in the sun because, there's nothing to cover you. There's no bus shelter of any. You wouldn't know it's a bus terminal. You wouldn't. The bus is a little late, but that's okay. It comes about 7 minutes late. We get on the bus. It eventually leaves, and I was supposed to have a 3-hour buffer from when the bus reached Birmingham to when my flight would take off. Now, 3 hours is more than enough. It's an hour drive, for Pete's sake. There's this white guy in what I can only describe as the stereotypical clothing of a racist person. A highly racist person. Like,
oh wow.
yeah, you've got like Confederate flags, his smartphone, big old Confederate flag screensaver, all this good stuff. The bus driver is a much older black gentleman, easily in his early 60s, easily. And this white guy goes into, there's actually a lavatory on this bus. The white guy keeps going apparently into the lavatory because this one time he goes in the lavatory and comes back a few minutes later and the bus driver yells, "This is the 7th time I've told you there is no vaping on the bus." This bus goes from Texas, I think it is, to, I don't know, somewhere else. I don't even know where, honestly. Somewhere in the South. I think it was maybe Atlanta, but I'm not quite sure. The white guy starts arguing with him. These two start yelling back and forth. Apparently they'd been doing this since Texas, which is where he got this guy from. And I'm just listening to the whole thing with my son, and I'm like, I don't know why this guy doesn't just kick the white guy off the bus. because he's within his rights. He can do that actually as a bus driver, but he doesn't kick him off the bus. So we finally get about 26 minutes outside of Birmingham. The bus driver pulls over, says, I need to get petrol. I need to get diesel. So he pulls over at this truck stop. He locks the door to the bus. He goes and fiddles with the pump for a minute and then walks inside. And I'm sitting there looking at it. I'm like, the pump's not connected to the bus. He's not fueling the bus. We're locked inside. He goes into the diner, sits down, and eats for 30 minutes. And very clearly, this man is having a mental fucking breakdown. I can see it in how he's behaving. It's the weirdest thing. So we then get stuck on the bus for an hour and a half with the bus doors locked. And that 3-hour buffer suddenly goes to, I have less than an hour when we finally arrive. So, eventually, after an hour and a half of him sitting, clearly trying to work through some stuff. And I can definitely understand. I mean, that guy was giving him real problems. I would have kicked him off. I can't believe he didn't. But I mean, anyway. So
what about,
yes.
before you get going, I mean, he didn't think about what if people have conditions? Like me, I couldn't stay on the bus for an hour because I'm claustrophobic. So, I would start panicking and having anxiety for being on a bus. And I don't know how big the windows are and how things are, but not letting somebody know and somebody starts to have an issue, now you got another problem on your hands. So that was stupid.
It was completely stupid. And I'm sitting there the whole time just panicked because this bus is getting later and later and later. This guy is clearly, like I said, having a mental breakdown, and I do not blame him. And I'm going, can I get a lift from here? How do I get out of this bus? Exactly to your point. And all of this other stuff. And the rest of the passengers are all antsy. Yeah. Well, eventually he does come back on. He fuels the bus. And that takes forever. So it took him an hour and 30 minutes to decompress. He then he then comes back, unlocks the bus, lets people go take a quick smoke break while he fuels up the bus. He goes to start the bus, and, the bus, of course, it's diesel, so you have to, and it's a big bus, so he has to pump it to get the diesel flowing into the system to get it started. And it's having trouble, and so the white guy's, again, giving him a hard time, and the bus driver's screaming, leave me alone, leave me alone. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm not here, This isn't happening.
This is a nightmare. Wake up, Dan. Wake up, DaRon. Right. Wake up.
And we finally eventually get going. We get to the bus terminal. And as we're pulling up, I'm already getting a lift to take us to the airport. We get off the bus and immediately egress from the bus without going through the building straight to where the lift is going to pick us up. And the RSA security guards, I'm halfway across the street with my son. We're already crossed the street. And the RSA security guard comes up and he's like, excuse me, you need to go back through the building. I'm like, do I have to check out or something? No, you have to go through the building. You can't just walk through the bus, I don't know, parking lot is what I'd call it. And which was weird because that's literally how we boarded the bus to, a few days prior. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. We walk up, back across the street. We literally walk through the building, don't talk to anyone, don't see anyone, walk through the building, and then right back out and cross the street. That's all he wanted us to do. It was the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I get the lift. We get there. They're less than 56 minutes until the plane goes. So, we get the tickets printed at the checkout counter. Thankfully, there's no one around. Apparently, no one flies in through Birmingham because both times it was empty. And we get to the security checkpoint immediately. There was no real line. And I told my son, screw it. Let's just go through the body scanner. I go through the body scanner. And guess what?
Oh, what?
They searched me anyway. They said, "Excuse me, sir, you got to come over here. We've got to search you." And I'm just flabbergasted. And I'm
Why?
like, yeah, I'm like, wait, what? And he goes, yeah, it detected something in your groin area. And I'm like, maybe my groin? I mean,
Yeah, like what else would be there? Like I don't get it. Like, what do you have a metal rod or something in there? Like, what the fuck is like? If somebody wanted to get freaky with DaRon on at the Birmingham airport, come on, come on.
I got patted down. Then they took a metal detector, and then they did the whole, gunpowder residue thing and all that good stuff. And I'm like, see, this is exactly why I say I opt out, because they're going to do it anyway.
So yeah, I didn't know. So you can literally opt out, and then what do they do if you say you opt out of it?
If you opt out, they will just pat. So it used to be if you opted out, they'd send you through the metal detector and then they might pat you down. But recently now, they will just pat you down and then they don't even metal detector you usually. They'll just pat you down and then they will do the whole, as they touch you, they take off their gloves, wipe them down, and then send it through a scanner looking for gunpowder residue, anything like that.
Okay.
It's
That's something good to know because I didn't know you can opt out because otherwise I'll start opting out and that I don't like. Yeah.
always opt out. It's easier. It's considerably less invasive. It's a hell of a lot more secure. And quite frankly, you don't want to run your kids through those scanners. There's nothing appropriate about those body scanners. They're ridiculously invasive to your privacy. They have had numerous instances where people have pulled images off the body scanners. They've had instances where TSA have printed off images off the body scanners and then mocked people. They have had instances where people have the TSA have mocked people for the size of their genitals and all this other stuff. I mean, it's 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 not good. And I will tell you, obviously I'm a security professional, so I'm a big fan of security. I'm not a
Hmm.
fan of that. I've never been a fan of that. I'm not a fan of anything where they're invading your privacy with no good reason and where there are medical reasons why they shouldn't be doing it to begin with.
Yeah, I don't like that either. Like I had thought about that so many times, and I'm like, I can only imagine what you can do as being a cybersecurity
Mm-hmm.
professional as well, do with those machines
Yep.
and what they're doing with those machines.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know you can opt out, but now that I know, I will opt out every time. And hopefully they don't decide they want to pat me down and check my stuff.
Yeah.
uh, oh my! So you go through this all the time, huh?
Yes, but that's and my
Ridiculous.
son was sitting there telling me, "Oh, mom just figured that you were afraid of flying." And I said, "How where is that coming from? I've flown my entire life. I've been on aircraft of all shapes and sizes. I've been on fighter jets. I've been on, going Mach 2, etc. I've been on cargo jets. I've been on refuelers. I've been on commercial airlines of all shapes and sizes. I've been on little, Cessnas, the puddle jumpers or hoppers or whatever they're called. Like, I've been on helicopters. I've been hanging out of helicopters. How would I be afraid of
Yeah,
flying?"
that makes no sense.
It boggled my mind, and I sat there and I said to him, "No, this is what I don't like. I don't like TSA. I also don't like that they keep making the airplanes so that you have less and less room, less and less space. I'm not a big guy. I mean, you know me. I'm a small person.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
no.
compact. But I'm sitting there going, oh, thank God I'm a small person. I don't know how anyone who's taller or wider fits in these damn things.
It's not conducive for me. Like, I can't, especially if I have to sit in the middle. I have broader shoulders, so
Mm-hmm.
I am in be like I'm basically touching the other person, and then
Mm-hmm.
I have longer legs, so it is not it's not comfortable. And I usually try to get the what is it, the extended
Right.
thing they have or whatever. It gives you a little bit more space, but not as much. But I
Right.
usually try to get that. But now, if you're flying at certain companies, you can't actually utilize that because they want you to basically be an economy, and I'm like, this is not a comfortable ride or flight going 4 hours, 5 or 6
Right.
hours somewhere. Like, why? You want to make it very comfortable, but the only people that get the comfortability is if you're in the plus version or you're in first class, and there's barely that much of a first class.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what's the
It's
point
not
of paying
worth
for
it.
this stuff anymore? It's not worth it.
No. No, it really isn't. And then now they want you to pay for everything to include you have to pay just to select a seat. Otherwise they give you a
I
random
know.
seat.
Like, I was told that when I was flying, that you couldn't, if you had to pay for a seat, that was not going to be covered. I'm like, they're making you pay for it.
Mhm.
It's not like I asked to pay for a seat. Well, you can get selected. They'll let you select. They'll pre-select you, but I have conditions, and well, you have to give us a medical thing. Why do I have to give you medical anything about that? I'm telling you, I have a condition.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want to see me freak out, or do you just rather just let me do what I do? So $22 is ridiculous, but it is what it is. That's what I noticed for picking and selection of your seats.
Mhm.
But it's ridiculous. Like, this whole thing is ridiculous. I wonder what they're gonna do when you start flying. They have really standardized flying cars.
Yeah.
But then again, I think that's gonna be held people flying cars and not
Yeah.
crashing.
Yeah.
Like, but I wonder what you're gonna do what they're gonna do when you can fly your cars.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. I do too. But yeah, I don't like flying. It's not that I don't like flying, it's I don't like TSA. I don't like TSA. They bother me so much. They hassle me so much. It makes me very anxious, and groups of people make me very anxious. There's nothing pleasant about the experience. There's nothing pleasant about the experience.
No, I agree. I don't like TSA either. Um, I just think that all of that is an invasion of privacy, and I know
Mhm.
they're trying to protect, quote unquote, protect you and the airport and everything else, everybody else from previous things, but we got to do better.
We do, and the body scanners are not the answer. Obviously, they're not the answer because I'm not the only one who gets searched after they do a body scanner. I know other people do too. I'm not the only one who gets randomly selected. And we talked about in one of the prior episodes where I had an incident in Chicago O'Hare where going from one terminal to the other. So this was just a layover, and I was literally trying to get my connection flight. I was searched 5 times, and then I asked TSA, the last person to search me, to actually escort me there because I was tired of getting searched, and I get searched before they let me board the plane, even. It's,
They think you from Saudi Arabia or something.
yeah, and it makes me very unhappy to fly. And the whole trip, the university was fine. Like I said, I didn't like that they very clearly pretended slavery didn't exist. They very clearly have placards all over the place supporting segregation, which I don't like that either. I don't know what time they think they're living in, but it's not 2023. But
Yeah, they're living in what, the 80s,
yeah, yeah,
something 70s, who knows?
yeah.
Yeah, they lost it. But that was a very interesting story, but it was also just a nightmare. So I don't want to ever go to Alabama or Mississippi. So I don't plan on. Hopefully, I don't never have to. I would freak out. So it's just crazy, and it's crazy how they still present racism down there. And as we've seen from some of the fight clips, there seem to still be some racism there. But it's just crazy, and I would want to be in a state where there's a lot of racism present in your face,
Yes.
and they don't have any like conscious about how people feel. They don't really care. They just blatantly put that there. So that is insane, and it's crazy that you had to go through that. But this was very interesting. I can't believe that, man. I would thought that is a nightmare from hell. So I wonder what other people would think. I wonder if people will actually comment and see, like, think about, like, talk about their experiences or
Yes.
whatever. please, state your experiences and how you feel down below in the comment section.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to, because I know, obviously, I'm not the only person who's had similar experiences. I know it's happened every time I go down to Alabama, Louisiana, or Mississippi, and Missouri, and South Carolina, North Carolina. Virginia's not great either, but Northern Virginia is usually better. You can see
Yeah,
there's an
yeah.
area.
That's a trend. Yeah, stay away from that area. Yeah, never had that problem in Florida.
I actually stay out of Florida. I've been to Florida once.
Yeah, I'm not going to Florida again if I can take it, but because of what they were talking about. I mean, it's just racism in the South. Like,
It
no matter where
yes.
you go, it's just racist.
Yes.
Like, but
Yes.
if you, I'm not saying it's not racist in other places, but still, in the South, it's just more prevalent. Like,
Yes. And it's
it's
more in your
ridiculous.
face.
Yeah, like they don't care. Like, I cannot believe that. But oh well, whatever they say. For anybody that's listening to this, watching this, or watch this episode, uh, be hesitant with where you go, and note wherever you're going that there probably is going to be some form of racism there if you're a minority or whatever it may be. But be hesitant about that, and mindful that this could be very a very interesting thing or very disappointing to you. But other than that, this concludes our episode. I'm Roniel.
I'm DaRon.
If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe for more episodes like this one. Until the next time.
Have fun.
No, I didn't even know you went through that. That was ridiculous. Like,
Yeah, that's why I
dude,
was telling you I needed to tell you about my trip to Alabama, but I was like, but I need to tell you in the podcast because I wanted to get that reaction. I wanted to hear the questions. And,
Yeah, no, oh no, like I can't believe that like they blatantly had that out. Like that is not something to be proud of. And it's crazy even now from all the way then to now we still are presented with in the face of racism, and it's
Yes.
ridiculous. Like,
Yes.
come on, man. Like, we're in 2023 now.
And they're putting up new monuments, new placards, and all of this other stuff. And I mean, hell, you've seen all the Confederate flags that came up all over the place under Trump, and those flags do not mean freedom. Those flags do not mean states' rights. We know what those flags mean.
It's crazy like that, but that would just mean that, to me, that shows that racism was hidden. Still, it's been hidden forever. You can't get rid of it. No matter what you state, the laws or anything, people are just racist, and they're always going to be. It doesn't matter, and it's just ridiculous. Like, why? Who gives a shit about the color of my skin? Why does it matter? I am
Right.
still a human being, just like you, just a different color.
Right.
Does it matter? Does it make me more superior than you? No, it doesn't.
That's
It
exactly
doesn't
right.
make any one of us more superior than the other. And we all were gifted particular genetics and gifts from God. So why does it matter?
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times the hatred comes from them wanting to be more like more minorities. Whether they like the color, whether they like the size, they don't have what you have, but who cares? Does it matter?
You're exactly right. And that's actually one of the problems that I have with the media today as a whole is the media race baits a lot, and that, in my opinion, merely perpetuates this and exacerbates the situation.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Like, I don't understand it. Like, I don't hate anybody. I don't hate your skin. I don't care what color you are. If I can get along with you and work with you, I am okay. I don't care. And even if I can't, that doesn't mean I hate you.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. Like, if you don't like somebody so bad, walk away, move away, go somewhere else. You don't have to be bothered with them. Ignore them. Like, do not have to be bothered with people that are idiots
Yeah.
and ignorant. You
Yeah.
know, so that's just ridiculous. But hey, this is the world we live in. It's a hatred world, and it's never going to change. And all we've proven is that hate, like racism and hatred, is always been hidden. and is trying to emerge as we speak. And I guess if Trump was to come back again as a president and get elected, it would be worse this time than it was the first time.
I completely agree. Actually, I think he demonstrated that they could get away with it to such a strong degree that it will be significantly worse. Significantly
Yep.
worse.
Because then they will be really showing their asses about
Mm-hmm.
how they feel and racism and thinking that they can take control. But it's also just crazy that people who are minorities are even voted for Trump or rooting for Trump. Like,
Right.
do you not see what's going to happen? You know, and there's nothing Trump can do about it because people are looking at him as their savior. It's ridiculous, but people don't see that. But it is what it is. What?
Instead, I'm sorry.
Calvary.
Yeah, cavalry, the
Right.
Union cavalry.
Okay. Why are they scouting out people though? Hold up.
Oh, this is Civil War. I'm sorry. Thank you for.
Oh, okay. I was about to say
This is
I'm
why I
lost
don't
right
tell
now.
stories.
Yeah. I'm about to say, what's going on here? It's getting a little crazy right now.
Yeah. This is during the Civil War. This is during the Civil War.